Americans like to work hard and play hard, and a part of playing hard is doing outrageous things to production 4x4s. And once they've done that, they then create entirely new sports. Have a look at this. Now Bob, we Brits do like to go off-roading. We take our Jeeps and we get them, well, slightly muddy. But you take things to extremes here, don't you?
Yes, sir.
What is all this about?
This is what we call a rock crawling buggy that we use specifically for the ARCA events, which is the American Rock Crawler Association.
Rock crawling, what is rock crawling?
Rock crawling is where they will take and they'll find a ravine or a rock, a real rocky outcropping, and they'll set up flags on it, and they'll make you approach and drive into these almost nearly impossible to walk on obstacles, but they want you to try to drive your Jeeps over them. And it's become a very, very big sport. We're seeing a lot of our people come from off-road racing, Ivan Stewart, Walker Evans. They've all crossed over into it. The guys are getting ready to retire. The off-road racing sport they've spent their time there, and now they want to retire and do some other things. They're very competitive. The vehicles, as you see, are very, very specific built. This one is a part right now because we're getting ready for next season.
It doesn't look much like a Jeep, actually, when all's said and done. What have you done to this?
This Jeep has been stretched 10 inches right behind the door. The fuel tank has been moved inside.
The coils are amazing. Look at the size of these things.
It's all custom built components. You don't drive them on the street a whole lot. You mainly put them on a trailer. You go to events. You compete with the best people in the nation at these events. It's limited to a very small number. I believe it's 50 or 60 entrants, and that's it. It runs 2 days, and it's a good time.
What's happened to this vehicle? It's got a few knocks and bangs.
This one was actually, we had it at an event in Montrose, Colorado, and we misjudged a line, actually. One of our spotters kind of missed a spot, and it cost us a rollover. You can see where the cowl has been crushed here. It got all of the hood, the fenders, the windshield frame, and the cage. It was a very hard rollover. So we've got it all apart again, and we're going to take and get it ready for next season.
Now, how much will it cost to put this right?
This will be about $90,000 when we're done.
$90,000?
Yes, sir.
So the idea then is to rock crawl, is not to roll them over, clearly.
Exactly. What's
the appeal? What's the difficulty angle of it?
It's fun, and I mean, I don't drive a whole lot. I watch and I keep the rigs, a lot of the guys going, and I'll tell you what, it's just as fun to watch somebody else drive as it is to actually be behind the wheel of this, because it's an adrenaline rush is all it is. You're just like bungee jumping or anything else. When you come into an obstacle literally that has a 10 or 12 foot vertical wall with a hole in it, and you have to drive your Jeep up it, it becomes very exciting, and it's exciting for the people watching. They come, the last event that we had, there was 15,000 people on a Saturday event, and They come from all over the country, all the way. The guy that won it is from North Carolina, and he and his fans travel that distance to watch Chris drive, and he's very good at what he does.
Well, now this is just one of the things you do with 4x4s.
Yes, sir.
You do all sorts of things to them, so let's go and have a look at one or two other things.
You bet.
Aha! Here's another one.
This is our backup rig. This one is being redone for next season also. The rigs come apart every year to refurbish and make sure that everything's 100% before we start traveling with them.
And it's powered by a Corvette engine, is it? A V8?
Yes, sir, it is. It's an LT1 Corvette motor. It produces a tremendous amount of low-end torque. The cars were originally known for high-end. We've recammed these and kept a lot of the specs on it, but what this does is this allows us to, when we get in an off-road situation, to have the quick throttle response. All these trucks run automatic transmissions with a low gear ratio transfer case and all one-ton drivetrain.
Wow, sounds great. What else do people ask you to do to their 4x4s?
This is a customer of ours that came to us, and he started this project, and he ran out of garage time. Basically, this started life as an 80 or 92 Jeep Wrangler. I apologize, I'm not sure which. But everything underneath here is completely custom. The only thing left factory on this Jeep is literally the body tub. It has a Ford 9-inch rear axle, custom coilover shocks, Dana 44 front axle, coilover shocks here with what's called a long travel arm kit. This is an extreme kit built by Warren Industries. This gentleman also has done a Corvette.
Oh, look at the engine block.
350 in this
Fantastic.
one. He has spent a tremendous amount of time on the polish and the flash on this Jeep.
Isn't that gorgeous?
It's a very, very beautiful Jeep. There's a tremendous amount of time in these. The one part that he left us to do, though, is the wiring. So we end up spending a tremendous amount of time on this. This Jeep had no fuel, no brakes, no wiring. So when he rolled in here, it literally was just a shell.
Is it mainly, look at, I mean, it's so high and it's very bulky. Is it more to do with style and saying, you know, look at me, or is it actually more practical? Which is it, show or practicality?
It's function.
Right.
When you get to this point with a vehicle, this rig is a purpose-built, purely functional rig. He has spent a lot of time on his polish. He's done his research on the axles and things like that. The last thing you want to have happen when you go four-wheeling is to have broken axle U-joints or, you know, carrier problems or something like that fail. So he's done all his research and bought only the best.
Okay.
And it is a purpose-built rig. You can drive it on the street, and he probably will. This is a very, very nice driving. Everybody will stop and stare at these. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. It's just like having a street rod, except what we do with ours is we put hubs on the front of them, and we keep them in kind of the same class. There's nothing cheap about building a four-wheel drive here anymore.
Right.
But they do. You will see a tremendous response of people waving that own Jeeps, people that stop and stare that wish they had Jeeps, that type of thing. And it's...
So it's a hot rod with hubs.
Yes, sir.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job with it. It's absolutely outrageous. Thanks a lot, Bob.
You're very welcome.
All the best
Thank
to you.
you.
Well, you Brits certainly love your cars, but you don't really like the idea of valet parking. In fact, a couple of expensive hotels in London tried it, and it just didn't take. But here in North America, it's a way of life.
758 is cash. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Wonderful. That'll be right up for you. You're welcome.
As far as the valet parking goes, we offer valet parking to any guest of the hotel, staying in the hotel, or coming to visit us for a function or for a meal.
It's a rare sight in England. They tried it in London at a few posh hotels for a little bit, but it didn't take, and no one wanted to, you know, a stranger getting in my car. I'm not going to do that. Do you get any reactions from international visitors, particularly British visitors, that are amazed that you're going to park their car and do it with grace and style?
I haven't seen anything like that, no.
Really?
Generally people, they drive it to the front door and expect it or want it.
What is the charge, or is it built into the cost of the room?
No, there is a daily charge for the parking. It's $24 per day.
Right.
There is one weekend package where we do offer the parking, but that's the only exception.
All right. So where does the car go after this? Is it in a heated car park?
Yes, we have 4 levels below us, below the building actually, and it is a heated garage.
Right.
And people will bring their car to the front door, and we'll back it up and drive it back down the driveway and then down the ramp.
Very good.
And park it.
So the insurance is built in for all of your drivers to do that in case they were to nudge a bumper or something?
That is correct. All of our valet parkers do have to have a driver's license.
Right. Now, what happens when you get a really, really expensive car? You must have some great people come through here, famous people. I know that many Hollywood stars have stayed here and British stars. What happens when you get a Bentley or a Rolls or a Jag come through here?
Well, we treat all the cars equally. Some guests who do drive those particular cars do indicate that they want it in an extra secure place. Well, we may park it closer to the cashier booth. That way there's an extra set of eyes always watching it.
Right.
But other than that, all the cars are treated the same.
Pleased to meet you. Welcome to Men and Motors.
Nice to meet you.
I understand that you're one of the chief valet attendants here at the Four Seasons.
That's correct. I've been here for about 7 years.
Right.
Working as a doorman.
And how have you enjoyed it? Are the customers generally friendly? How do they greet you when you say, can I park your car for you?
They're very friendly. Everyone just wants to get their car parked. They're nice. They know we offer the service.
Right.
And they're very excited about getting the car and having the convenience of leaving the car here with us, and it's going to be safe, and we take care of everything.
Sure. Now, you must be adept at driving various cars, though. You must get some international visitors that come in. Do you have any right-hand drive, left-hand drive, anything like that?
Not so much that. There's a lot of sports cars,
right.
6 gears, that sort of thing. We're not going too far with them. We just take them downstairs, so it's not that exciting, but you know, it is interesting.
What are some awesome cars that you had the privilege of parking?
Lamborghinis are my personal favorite.
Is that right?
Yeah, the Diablos, those are very spaceship type cars. They're very exciting.
Right.
Of course, you'd like to drive them, you can't. You just take them downstairs and park them, and you're more or less moving them into a short space. And some of them stay out here in front. So.
Right. What are some of your protocol that you actually put into place when you're doing this? What's the general premise that you use? To
just greet the guests and welcome them to the hotel, explain to them where they're going, if they have any questions on where things are in the hotel, that sort of thing, where our restaurants are, the outlets, directions when they're leaving the hotel, that sort of thing. Ask them if they've had a nice time with us. It's very personal service, that sort of thing.
Now, there's a lot of chivalry built into your job. And is there a particular way in which you do what you do? Is there a way to open the door and greet the person?
Well, I will go approach the door to do that myself. If a gentleman would like to open it for his lady, we'll let him do that first. We sort of just play it by ear and let him walk to the car. If he would like us to do it, he'll stand back. So we'll, it's a little bit of intuition, that sort of thing, knowing if they want the service or the help. Generally, I should get to every door that comes into the hotel.
Oh, is that right? If you had to convince a British viewer that valet parking is the way to go, see, it's so alien to them. They say, I'm not going to let some stranger, I don't care if he's wearing a hat and overcoat or not. How would you convince them that it's a perfectly safe and normal thing to do at a posh hotel?
Well, they could stand by and watch us for a little short time if they don't trust the service in general. We can show them what we're doing if that would make them feel more comfortable. It's just a very convenient service, and I think after a few times of using a service, they'd see that it's very safe.
It was just 2 years ago here in Detroit, Michigan, where the Chrysler PT Cruiser wowed audiences with its retro styling and audacious curves. Now we know it drives as good as it looks if you can get a hold of one. It's reasonably priced and the orders for this thing are astronomical. It's quickly becoming, a lifestyle car for the 21st century. And what do we do with lifestyle cars? Well, we change them, of course. And so already you can get this body lowering kit. This one's got darkened windows. That's now available in the UK. And that, of course, is just the beginning. If you're the Brian Setzer Orchestra, for example, whoever they may be, well, they've just put a flaming paint pattern on theirs with all sorts of chrome and styling on here. Come over here, though, that's just the beginning, because in the end, with your PT Cruiser, well, of course, you'll need to have the wooden side panelling, won't you? You'll need to have this livid, beautiful canary yellow. And for the guy who has everything, why not add a trailer? Customized trailer, of course, wooden paneling, and inside, the beautiful Indian motorcycle. And by the way, by my calculations, this bike is actually worth more than the car. It's now time to visit the British man who really is in love with the all-American automotive dream, Jim Thornbury. Jim's all-American car collection includes many rare examples, as well as unique vehicles, such as this film car from Bugsy Malone. Or what about the gold leaf-covered Liberace Caddy? This week, Jim shows us round his Ford Edsell and gives us his theories as to why the car almost bankrupted Ford. The Ford Edsell, it's Ford's biggest post-war disaster, this car, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah.
They were hoping to sell something like 650 a day, and they sold 350?
Yes,
Extraordinary.
Yes, a very beautiful car, but...
It is. I mean, like they all were, and this one still is, and they blamed the disaster on the front area here, didn't they?
Well, they did, yes. And, of course, it was also the gun sights here, all extra expense, but there was something about the front that certainly didn't help the sales.
Yeah, I mean, most people will, if they know anything about the Edsel, it's that this front grille, the vertical grille, was a disaster for them because people said that it reminded them of the female gender, let's say, and leave it there, because there's a lot of good things to say about this car,
Oh,
isn't there?
yes, indeed. Yes, it's a beautiful driving car. As you can see, bucket seats, very, very comfortable car.
Look at the size of this, the back end of this. It's quite extraordinary.
Yes, but again, you see you've got power steering and it's easy to park. And beautiful lighting system on the back.
You know, this back end reminds me of a ski boat where you sort of
That's right.
put your knees on the back
like
to
the
get
Riva.
into
The Riva,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
Possibly built on the same lines as the Riva American speedboat. Today, there is not many of them about, and it makes it a pretty unique car. And doesn't it give us something to talk about?
Right.
Doesn't it make something of the car at the end of the day?
It does. And the other interesting thing to say is that Ford never, ever made another vertical grille on their cars again.
No.
Where would you start? Where would somebody start to collect these cars?
Today, first of all, I must say that it would be very expensive for them to bring them over from the States, because the cars in the States at the moment are fetching an awful lot of money. A lot of money. In fact, you'd buy cheaper here in the UK. And I would think there's not so many to be had in the States. The cars that I have got, I don't think I've spent more than £1,000 in all on all of the engines. And that's a total. Having said that, I've got the Lincoln in there at the moment on the lift, as you've possibly seen, and we're replacing a piston. And to get a 9th hour oversized piston hasn't been a problem. Getting a bit of piston slap. And that's the only little problems that has occurred in all the times I've been driving that Lincoln and all the big 1930s.
Well, they say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and at the end of the day, it's fair to say the Edsel wasn't a bad car, it just failed to find a distinctive niche in the market. That, plus the overuse of existing Ford and Mercury parts, doomed the car to failure. Oh, and that front grille. Awful. Any self-respecting town in the United States will have at least one car club celebrating anything from American classics, hot rods, or a particular make of car, and Canyon City, Colorado is no exception. Now, Terry, this was once a workhorse for you, wasn't it? Tell me
Right.
about it.
I own wrecking yards, and so this was our main tow truck. It had a wrecking bed on the back of it, and of course it wasn't extended cab then. It was just a plain old work truck, and we ran it for about 15 years that way.
How long ago was that?
We quit using it about 5 years ago.
Right.
And we finally just parked it. It was getting so bad it wouldn't run anymore, and the brakes were bad, and you couldn't get parts for it, so...
Now, most people would, at that point, just dump it, put it on the scrap heap and leave it there. So why didn't you do that?
Well, it had a lot of sentimental value. You know, it'd been in the family a long time and was pretty good to us. And then a guy came to work for me that said, I can do something with that. And so we took an 81 one-ton frame and redid the whole frame. Then we took the old body, we cut it off about right here, and added this section onto it, added 19.5 inches to it, put all that back together. Then we built the bed out of a couple other beds and put the narrow fender beds on the side of the outside of a wide bed, and redid it all and set it all on the 81 frame. And we have a modern running gear now with a modern 454 in it, automatic transmission, and it'll go wherever you want it to go and do whatever you want it to do.
Is it the nostalgia of these that's important?
I think so. I think so. You know, a lot of people like to keep them original, but an original truck like this, you blow a wheel bearing, you can't find it anywhere. So by updating everything, you still have the nostalgia, but you've got something that's usable.
Have you got something against the design of modern vehicles?
No, I like the modern ones, but they're so complicated, a guy can't work on them anymore and so on. And I mean, we put this one together and painted it and everything else right in my garage in the backyard, you know, and did the whole thing. And it really makes it a good running truck now.
Well, we've already learned that a lot of the cars here have modern technology inside them. Underneath, they are sort of wolves in sheep's clothing, but Don here has an original, an authentic antique, and it's fabulous. Tell us all about it, Don.
Well, I bought it 44 years ago for $35. I drove it for years and years, and then I restored it in 1985 back to original, and it's been a driver mostly all these years. Not, you know, just part-time, just for a hobby.
What did you get for $35 all those years ago? Was it in fairly good nick?
Yeah, it was in perfect shape.
Is it
35
really?
years ago, yeah.
Now, what's it got inside? We've got the bonnet, the hood open here.
Yeah.
What's driving it?
Okay, well this is your gas tank here. You put your gas in, and it's just a downdraft. There's no fuel pump on it,
Right.
and goes right into your carburetor there, which is they call a downdraft. It's a 40 horsepower, 4-cylinder. Your coil sets up here, and they're a real simple thing.
It's really simple. isn't it?
This, to time it, you take this out, turn it in backwards, and take the crank and turn it till it hits the slot, and then you just aim your distributor to number 1 cylinder, and that's the way you time the thing.
Well, John, this is really the party car, isn't it? You have the music. You like to have the music blaring on here, and it looks like it's seen some action. This thing.
You bet.
Tell me about it. Where'd you find it? What have you done to it?
Well, I've owned several 1955s. I'm a 55 buff. This is a 55 Chevy Bel Air, and it's got the 327 engine in it, 4-speed transmission. Kind of a high school car, what we all grew up in and what we all drove when we went to school.
Is this all about trying to relive your youth then?
You bet.
Yeah?
That's what it's all about. Keep you young. Yep, we all want to stay young, and it's a nostalgia, you know. 1955s, 56s, and 57s were the thing back then when we were going to school, and they still are.
The invention of the motor car revolutionized the world, and nowhere faster than here in America. One of the first social changes it brought about was in mating habits. Young people very quickly realized that there was far more they could accomplish in the back of a car than they could on a front porch swing. It's far more private and more comfortable. In fact, Grapes of Wrath author John Steinbeck wrote, "Most of the babies in the 1930s were conceived in the Model T Ford, and not a few were born in them as well." We'll see you next week.